Hi there. Welcome to another episode of Functional Family Fridays. I'm Reiki Rita Roberts, a holistic family relationship coach. So, I'm going to share a very common story about a girl named Rose who is very unhappy. Rose is emotionally insecure and struggles with self confidence and low self worth due to her fear of confronting her toxic parents about her unhappiness and not setting healthier boundaries to protect her health. So, this is the story of Unhappy Rose. Rose is a beautiful 32-year-old woman that has no self confidence in herself. People tell her how beautiful and great she is and how lucky she is to have so many wonderful things happening in her life, but she still can't see it. Regardless of what she has and all the positive things people tell her about herself, Rose is still unhappy. Rose lives in a nicely decorated, high-rise condo in downtown Toronto. She has a good paying job, secure government job, right? She's engaged to be married to a man that her parents approve of. In fact, he's just like her father. Rose and her fiance are planning a big fancy wedding with all the bells and whistles because her parents expect this from her. So Rose lives her life around her parents' expectations and makes sure she never disappoints them. Because she's seen what would happen if she does disappoint them. Her brother does his own thing. He's the black sheep in the family. He doesn't let the parents control him. So now he's considered a hopeless case by the parents, and they've stopped putting any expectations on him. But he's quite happy, feeling free to live his own life and not have to live up to the expectations of his controlling parents, and focuses more on his his happiness instead. Sounds like a great deal, right? But so Rose now, she feels cheated and ripped off. She feels this is unfair. She feels she's been handed down the burden of being the perfect child so her parents have something to feel proud of and to brag about to other people. Because they understand her parents are also insecure and fear-based, and they worry about what people think of them. Now, if Rose stops trying to please her demanding parents, they become very angry, punishing, and controlling. So because Rose lacks the self-confidence and the courage to stand up to her parents, because she once tried that, and the anger and the pressure she got from them was too much for her to handle. So Rose felt frustrated, defeated, hopeless, and very alone in her emotional battle to constantly please her parents. She's exhausted. So Rose was tired, exhausted from always fighting with her parents, because whenever she tried to get them to understand her needs, she would never win. And she just became more unhappy. So Rose decided it was just easier to make them happy. So time passed, and Rose began focusing all her energy in pleasing her parents and keeping the peace and never fighting for herself. However, Rose was suffering in silence. She often cried alone, struggled with anxiety and depression, and would often get very dark thoughts about suicide or ending her life. Even though She knew she had to change things. Her mind kept telling her over and over in herself, her critical mind, that it was easier and less scary to just put up the charade and put up with her parents' demands and not voice her opinions or think for herself or follow her inner guidance and her own dreams. And any time her true self would surface, Rose would push her own needs down inside of herself, telling herself these common phrases. Well, they're my parents. They know what's best for me. This was the inner dialogue that went on in Rose's mind. What's the point of standing up for myself? I'm not going to win. My parents mean well. Maybe one day things will change for me. What am I complaining about? Things could be worse. If I keep pushing things with my parents, they're going to disown me, punish me, or cut me off completely. So I better not push my luck. And these things kept going on in Rose's head. So as a result of her suppressed emotions, not only did Rose's parents control her, but so did so many other people in her family, at work, online, her friends, everywhere, including her soon-to-be in-laws. It was as though Rose unconsciously attracted the same kind of controlling energy vampires that resembled her controlling parents. Instead of attracting positive, happy, peaceful, kind, compassionate people that would encourage her to be happy, she was stuck attracting the same sort of toxic people. Unfortunately, as time passed, Rose got more and more stressed out, anxious, exhausted, run down, angry, unhappy, and depressed. Funny thing is, she wasn't even aware of it. Rose had changed, but not for the better. People started talking about her, started judging her. They would say that she didn't resemble the old Rose, the old lovable Rose that they once knew and loved. Rose was no longer fun to be around, always complaining, angry, stressed out, unhappy about something. She would take her anger out on her friends and other, instead of dealing with the issues that should have went to her parents. Okay. Eventually, her friends started to avoid her calls, her texts, because they didn't want to deal with her negativity. Rumors started about Rose that she sounded just like her controlling mother now. Over time, Rose's relationship with her friends and fiancé became stressful and energy draining and unfun. Okay? And sadly, Rose also lost her best friend too because of how negative and fearful she had become. So even when Rose knew that she was compromising all the good things and all the good people in her life, she would not change things and refused to step out of denial and admit the truth about her unhappiness. And the reason why is Rose kept tolerating all their negativity and emotional neglect was because of fear. Because of fear. Unfortunately, so many years of emotional abuse and negative influence, Rose slowly turned into what she hated and despised. Her worst nightmare happened. She became her toxic mother. Rose turned into her inconsiderate, angry, hurtful, controlling, insecure, mean mother. No one could even recognize the old, fun, loving, considerate, compassionate, caring Rose anymore. And the relationship between her best friend, who was her sounding board, who she used to turn to when she needed emotional support, ended very badly. Okay. They knew each other since they were children, and now the relationship was gone, right? Her friend said that unless Rose made a complete 180 and changed her negative attitude, she would never have another good quality, true friend like she was again. So sad. Rose protected her fragile ego by saying back that she didn't care that she was no longer a friend and that she didn't need her friendship. But the truth was that Rose felt more alone and unhappy than ever before. They say, as a result, Rose became bitter, resentful, jealous of other people, angry, and controlling, just like her parents, because of her chronic unhappiness. Eventually, Rose ended up marrying her fiance. Rumor has it that she never took the time to invest in her emotional healing. So now she's the same toxic, controlling parent to her poor children now too. And so the cycle of dysfunction continues with Rose. And without her even knowing it, because she's so focused on her own wounded emotional pain, that she's ignoring and hurting her children the same way her parents ignored and hurt her. So sad. So imagine, Rose could have changed the quality of her life completely, right? Just by making better choices for herself, right? If only she had the courage and the self-confidence to stand up to her toxic, hurtful parents, and by setting healthy emotional boundaries for herself, kept positive, supportive friends and people in her circle of influence, and loved and respected herself enough to say, you know what, I deserve better than that, okay? But instead, Rose chose to take the path of least resistance in order to keep the peace in the family. Sound familiar? She never fought for herself, for her passion, for her purpose, for her health, and for her happiness, because she never knew her worth and value. Unfortunately, as you can imagine, the story ends here, and life ended badly for Rose, as you can imagine. So I hope you enjoyed that story, and maybe it's hit home for you in a couple of ways as well. I know that was my story as well. But here's a good thing. If Rose's life story sounds like your life story right now, the good news is it doesn't need to end badly for you, okay? There's still some time to change your story and turn things around. And if you feel you deserve better, but you don't know how to start changing things, then I would be happy to help you. That's my expertise, and that's my experience, and I'd be happy to help you. So your next 3 steps are: 1, your short-term solution is to protect yourself from your toxic parents immediately. I want you to download the free Toxic Parent Survival Guide right now. That's going to help you, understand your situation and put some things into place to protect your emotions from further damage. Number 2, get the emotional support you need right now. If you haven't already, please join my free Facebook group called Stressful Family Relationships. Click the link below and jump on. All right? And finally, the third term, long-term solution, is to take the time to heal and transform yourself into an emotionally stronger, confident, courageous person. Okay? This is the only way that you're going to evolve and be stronger and less affected by toxic energy vampires. So I've created an online program that's coming shortly in April. It's called I Deserve Better. It's an online emotional empowerment program. So click the link below to learn more and get on the waiting list. Okay, so thank you for investing in your time wisely today by listening to Rose's story, right? Stop waiting for things to miraculously change in your life and start doing something to improve the quality of your life right now, because it won't change till you start, putting some skin in the game and making things happen. Because I want to leave you with this last thought. Life's too short. Do you want to become bitter like Rose, or do you want to get better? All right, so bitter or better? The choice is always yours. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next week on Functional Family Fridays. God bless and be well.